What's up, everybody? It's your boy Dog Waters coming back to you with another episode of Out of Left Field. I know I haven't been talking much over the last couple of videos, but I'll explain a lot of that in the near future. And if you heard some of the interviews, then you know a lot of what's been going on with me. But Out of Left Field, for those of you who are new to the Dog Waters family, this is simply a different format in which I tell stories that have been related to me via, kind of like I would do if I was in a radio interview. It's real informal, not as many sound effects, probably just music, bada bing, bada boom, and that's it. So without any further ado, let's get into a couple of the stories. Guys, when I first started doing this channel, I told you all about my friend who was in the DEA and FBI, and that's how I ended up getting the very first Dogman story. And so I wanted to share some of those stories with you guys that I have from him. I can't use his name, although probably could, because he's been out of it for a while, but it doesn't matter. There's no need to know his name. It's just some good stories. As an undercover DEA agent, one of the things that they were required to do was buys. So they would go to a crack dealer or cocaine dealer's house, knock on the door, and do a buy. And then once they were able to complete the buy, it was on a wire and the agent was bugged, then they would raid the house and take the drugs and take everybody to jail. Well, this guy had been undercover for an extremely long time, and so he started telling me a lot of the stories of the things that happened while he was undercover and while he did those buys from the people who were selling drugs. And let's get into a few of those. First story goes is this is his third buy that he's ever done. He goes up, he knocks on a door, and there's a female who says, "Yeah, what you want?" He was like, "Yo, baby, can I get a working man's pack?" And for those of you guys who don't know what a working man pack is, a working man's pack is you buy enough drugs to where you can turn around and flip it and sell it to make you some money. It's not like you're not buying it to use it, you're buying it to sell it, right? So it's a little extra in there so you can sell it and make you some money. She's like, "Yo, baby, let me get a working man's pack." And so at first she's like, "Nah, I don't know who you are. You're not getting in here." He was like, "Look, baby, it's me. Let me get a working man's pack." "Yo, baby, open the door." So she finally opens his door. He steps in, and as soon as he steps in the door, her boyfriend puts a gun to his head. He says, You disrespected my woman. What you doing calling my woman baby? Talking about yo baby, yo baby. And so he immediately puts his hands up, trying to disarm the situation. He says, "Listen, man, I didn't mean any disrespect. I was just like, yo baby, she's a woman. So I'm like, yo baby, I'm not trying to get at your woman. I'm not trying to holler at her. I'm just like, yo baby, let me get that from you." And so he talks for about 5 minutes, talking this guy down who has the weapon pointed directly at his temple. And finally he's able to talk him down, and he does the buy, right? Leaves the room, leaves the house, goes down the street around the corner, gets suited up with his bulletproof vest, gets his weapon, puts his DEA cap on, and they all head back to the house. They beat the door in. He's the first one in the door, runs up on the guy, busts him across his head, and says, yo baby, I got that working man's pack." Then the rest of the guy take him to jail. The next story that I have is from another gentleman who was in, not the same guy, another gentleman who's in the DEA. And this is about his, I think this was his first major bust. And this is like some Bad Boys type shit for real. Like the movie The Bad Boys. Well, anyway, this happened in Compton, in LA and Compton, which is crazy. Back in those days, the Jamaican posse was seriously running drugs through Los Angeles. So he goes into a neighborhood that's a Jamaican posse neighborhood. Goes in, he goes to do a buy, and as he walks through the door, he realizes that he done stepped into some shit he don't need to be in. Because he gets in the door, there's two hallways, one to the right, one to the left. There's a fireplace right in front of him. At each doorway leading to the hallways is a guy standing there with a shotgun. He goes to the left and goes through that very first hallway, passing the guy with the shotgun. He keeps going back. There's a kitchen. And there's three guys sitting at the table in the kitchen. They got drugs on the table. They got money on the table. They got all kind of shit on the table. and he proceeds to try and make a buy. And the first dude looks at him. And says, "I think you a cop." And he was like, "Man, what you mean I'm a cop?" He's like, "I think you a cop. We ain't selling you shit." Now he's standing there. He hears the shotgun behind him chamber around. So he can't just leap up out of there. He's got to get the buy done. So he continues to talk to him, sits at the table with him, drinks some Hennessy with him, drinks some yak with him. For those of you who don't know what yak is, that's Hennessy. And proceeds to smoke some weed with him, you know, doing everything he could do to make them comfortable. Just running and talking the shit with him, trying to get them to just running the shit with him, trying to get them to feel more comfortable about him, right? Finally, he's able to make the buy, and he leaves. Well, he done made the buy, now they gotta come back. They roll up, suited up, ready to go into the house. They hit the door with whatever the little big hammer, the little metal thing is that they hit the door with. I don't know the name of it, but they hit the door, boom! The door does not move. They hit it again, boom! The door doesn't move. They hit it again. Boom! The third time, the top of the door comes off the hinges, and the door is leaning in. But inside, you can hear the pitter-patter of their feet as they're running around and scrambling, right? So quite naturally, there's people on the front, there's people on the back, there's people surrounding the house at this point in time. These dudes just start shooting through the walls of the house. I mean, laying down shotgun round after round. Boom, 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 boom. Just shooting through the walls of the house. Now, the team that's supposed to be breaching the door is still at the door because they couldn't get through the damn door because they never anticipated that this wouldn't break the door. So now all of them laying on the ground, they scrambling, people running and scrambling. Somehow, two of them get out of the back door, get in the car, and they take off running, right? They take off going. The other ones continue to shoot till they run out of ammo. Hit the door again, bam! Go in the door, they're able to subdue everybody in the house. Now they got to get and try and find these other two dudes. By now there's a helicopter in the air. They chasing the guys around LA. It's going crazy, right? So at this point in time, my friend finds out where at. Him and his partner in the car. They chasing the dudes down, trying to find them. Finally, the helicopter radios them and tell them exactly where they are. Tells them exactly where they are. They must have ran out of gas because these two dudes is off on the side of the road and now they running. So they running down the street. Now, if you can imagine this, two Jamaicans running down the street, one with money in his hands, the other with crack in his hands. Crack is falling everywhere. Money's falling everywhere down the street. Helicopter whirling above head. The two partners are running these dudes down trying to catch them. One of the dudes turns a corner where there's a whole bunch of people. Throw the money in the air, so now people scrambling for money. They trying to run through the crowd and catch this dude. He get away. The other dude who just running down the street with crack falling everywhere finally gets tired and just stop running. It took them 5 more days to catch up with that other guy who threw the money in the air, but they finally got all of them. Next story. I'm going to move away from the police and the DEA stuff, and let's go to something a little more spooky. I just wanted to do those because I thought those were kind of cool. And it's a much better story when these guys tell it themselves, but I thought it was kind of cool. And it probably would do justice if I actually did those stories with the sound to them. But I'll tell you what, let's go to something a little bit more scary. Young lady calls me. And I say young, she's in her 30s. And she wants to share some stories with me about, you know, things that happened when she grew up in her childhood. And she grew up in a house that was pretty haunted. It wasn't documented haunted. It wasn't something that was on TV. But everybody knew the house was haunted. I mean, her mother, her father, her sister, her brother, everyone knew that this house was haunted. And it had some kind of demonic energy in it, right? So they kind of lived with it day to day. Sometimes it was worse than others. But one of the scariest things she told me was about when she was 12 years old. It was only her and her dad at home. Her dad was sitting on the sofa watching TV. She was in her bedroom with like a nightlight on. And she was doing some reading by the nightlight. And she decided she needed to use the restroom. So as she gets up from her bed, and if you can imagine, you know, just as anybody else did, she wasn't laying in her bed, she was laying across her bed, so her feet are hanging off the bed. As she gets up from the bed and her feet touch the carpet, she turns and starts walking towards the bathroom. And the hallway is about 11 or 12 feet long, so she crosses the threshold from her room, enters into the hallway, and the light in the hallway is off, but there's this light behind her, which is to the living room where her father is. So she can literally see where her father is. She can't see him because she can see the room where he is, and there's light shining through. So it's just enough to light up the hallway to where she could see. As she takes 3 steps into that hallway, this black mass starts to form and come out of the bathroom. And what I mean by black mass, the way she described it was very, I mean, it was frightening, because she said, no, dog, this thing was black, and it was in the shape of a person, but the shoulders had like these points, like tentacles on them. On the left shoulder and right shoulder had, the shadow was like a tentacle, and it was moving. Around the waist, it was like these black shadowy tentacles that kind of moved forward, coming towards me. And she said, at first, initially, I was just like, man, I don't know what to do. Then finally, she mustered the energy to scream for her father. And as she screamed the father's name, she realized something, that she couldn't see the light coming from where he was anymore. There was no light coming. And so she felt alone, and like she was by herself. And she kept screaming the father's name, screaming the father's name, screaming the father's name. And finally, until her father came running through this blackness, grabs her, takes her into a room, and slams the door. Now, that family's had a lot of other stuff. And you know, God, that's demonic. I don't like talking about demonic stuff right now. I'm getting the chills talking about it, so I'm not talking about no more of that shit. Y'all know how I feel about that. So consider that one of the lucky ones, because I hate talking about that kind of shit. Another story that happened while they were in the house. Now this time it's her and her mom at home. They're both sitting at the kitchen table. It's early in the morning. Her mother had just cooked breakfast. Her father had just taken the other kids off to school. So it's her and her mom sitting at the kitchen table. They're eating. Nobody else is in the house. So as they're sitting there eating, they start to hear the ice maker go off. Like it's just making ice, repeatedly dropping ice, 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 ice. But as you guys know, back in those days, the way the ice makers worked was it would make a little sound like psst, and it would fill up an ice tray full of water, right? And then that water would freeze, and then at some point in time, it was a timer that dumped it, and you'll hit the ice dump. Well, this thing is constantly dumping ice, and all you hear is ice dumping over and over and over, just the sound of this ice dumping in the refrigerator. Then the faucets turn on. I'm talking about full burst. Water in the faucet, right? I mean, in the kitchen sink. The faucets turn on. Then the damn microwave turns on. Then the coffee maker turns on. The lights turn off. And then smoke starts coming from the oven. So, of course, her and her mama sitting there like, whoa, this is crazy. They both get up, run out of the front door. Which to me, I mean, that's a great thing to do. Most of the people I talk to, what did you do? I kind of looked at it. They run out of the house, go to the neighbor's house, knock on the neighbor's door, say they use the neighbor's phone, call the dad to tell the dad to come home. They stay at the neighbor's house until the dad gets home. When they all go back in the house together, nothing is changed. It was just like it was before the activity happened. The ice maker has just a regular amount of ice. The faucets are off. The microwave is off. The coffee maker is off. There's no smoke coming from the oven. The house doesn't even smell like smoke. So this family dealt with this type of stuff for a very, very, very long time, until finally they decided they were going to move out of the house. Now, I'm going to cut this short because now I need to go say my prayers, because I'm feeling all freaky energy in here and crazy foolishness, which I knew I shouldn't have told that story, but it's all good. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to holler back at you guys later and share you some more stories, and we'll talk a little bit more later.